Hey everybody, Ben here from DMC Films and Cineblock Studios, and today I'm going to be talking about why big projects are really important to have, and I'm going to be making a color reel out of gouache. So I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's really important to do a big project every, 3 years or so. Now I don't mean start a project and do it for 3 years, I mean finish a project, wait a couple years, and then do another big project. That big project might take you a couple of years, so that's sort of why I figured 3 years was a good round number, I feel, to pick for doing a big project. But what do I mean by doing a big project? Well, I don't necessarily mean something that's just like a big painting. I'm not saying, hey, why don't you just do a big single 6-foot painting once in a while. It's not what I mean. I'm not saying do a big mural, because while those are big projects, they're not necessarily what I mean by a big project. So just to kind of think back, a big project for me is something that encompasses at least 6 or more individual pieces. So something like my high school portfolio, which was of course a class assignment, but that was pick a theme and do 12 paintings, drawings, or something that fit into a certain theme. Now my high school portfolio used the human hand, and I used a lot of like sort of a hand of God, hand in interaction with different body parts, internal and external included. And that was a really interesting project. It certainly challenged me in a lot of ways. A lot of people in my class thought I was going to do something sort of landscapey, which, while that is something I do, I definitely wanted to challenge myself and to push my work further. And really that's what that particular project was really about. The next time I did one, that was 2008 by the way, 2011 was the next one I did, so that was a good 3-year mark, and that was a series called Bob in Space. I had been sort of starting, this was right before I started sort of really breaking into the professional market, and I wanted to do something that really, again, challenged my work and sort of did something that pushed my work a little bit further. The Bob in Space series was, I think, 12 or 14, possibly even more paintings, and those were done with a combination of oil and acrylic paint. The whole purpose of that series, for me, was to take the element of design of color and just push it as far as I could. How many different combinations can I do? What looks good together? How can I get more different kind of blends together, and really kind of pushing something that is very, very simple, but at least in its concept, and just pushing it as far as I possibly could at that particular point in time. At the end of the project, well, there wasn't actually a specific end. I just sort of stopped making them after a while. But I can definitely say that I learned a lot doing it. I definitely learned a lot about color. I definitely learned a lot about how far I can push color. And when I start making certain color combinations, I'm like, okay, this is a little too strange. I think I got to take a few steps back. And now, of course, that was 2011. So that's okay. What did you do in 2014? Nothing. I didn't do anything. It's actually been now almost 5 years, or almost 6 years even, since my last big project. And the current big project I'm starting is the Kingdom of the Wind project. And if you saw Wednesday's video, you'll know about that. If not, check out the link in the description box below, or the annotation at the end of this video. And that'll link you over to that. I'm super excited to be starting a big project again like that, that encompasses not just a single large piece, but a lot of different pieces together as in a single theme. So why is it actually important for all of you to do a big project? Well, first, I find that it's a great learning experience on a lot of different fronts. The first sort of great learning experience is that it forces you to be consistent across multiple works. So you have to maintain either a style element, maybe an element of color and symbolism across a lot of works, or maybe if a big project for you means doing something like a comic book, that means making sure that your characters and your plot is consistent over a very long period of time as well. I love also these big projects because you can really build sort of an active learning environment for yourself, because you, rather than just sort of learning as you go, a project can take a sort of concentrated burst of learning for a certain skill or a certain concept and just push you much more forward in that direction. I think this is where a lot of artists get stuck, is that they start learning the basics and they start working and then they hit a plateau. And I think this plateau is the point where you need to take on a big project. Now, whether you're at that level and you want to jump on the Kingdom of the Wind project with me, again, more about that in the video from Wednesday, or if you just want to start a project of your own and say, hey, I want to do 6 to 12 pieces that are mountains, or maybe I want to do so something like you want to work on the figure, okay. But rather than just saying, I'm going to do 12 pieces that are about the figure, because that's a little too vague, you have to kind of nail it down to something a little more specific, you can say, I want to do pieces that incorporate the human figure, but in doing so, tell a human emotion. That is a good example of a project that is specific, but also refined enough that you can work on a specific thing. For example, figure drawing. Another really good one that's just wrapping up for a lot of people is Inktober. This was started by an artist by the name of Jake Parker. He's actually got a channel here on YouTube. He's a professional illustrator and sort of comic artist. And the Inktober challenge is to get people better at inking their illustrations and doing line work. I actually personally don't do Inktober. Not because I don't want to participate, but because I sketch in ink every day. So to me, sketching in ink isn't a challenge, so I have to find other challenges to push my work forward. And the final reason that I really find that this is important is because it teaches you to build good pieces, not just pieces that work for the theme, but pieces that are sort of portfolio worthy. So if you're an art student, or if you're a budding professional and you need a good set of works that sort of represent you as an artist, as well as the kind of work you can do and that really show your skill level, that's the sort of the good part of doing a big project, is that you can build really good works out of it. And don't be afraid to do something for your project, but take it out of that project and say, this wasn't good enough, I'm taking it out of the set. So make sure that what you're producing for your project are good quality pieces. So maybe you're at the point where you're going to start developing that project for yourself. So you have to think, okay, what do I want to do and what do I like to do? Whether you're telling a story, exploring an element or principle of design, building a character or characters for perhaps a comic, or just simply expressing an idea or an emotion through several different pieces, I think it's really important to do something that you are interested in, and then worry about trying to push it into maybe a new medium, a new style, or even just a new workflow for yourself, finding that way to challenge yourself. You don't necessarily have to pick a lot of different things. One thing that for me, I've sort of tried to do some big projects along the way, and what usually ended up causing me to just fall on my face is I was trying to do too many new things at once. I was, a little while ago on my second channel, I was trying to do these creature and mech studies, but I was doing it in graphite, and I'm not comfortable sketching in graphite the same way I'm comfortable sketching in ink. And for the one drawing that I did in that, it was a very small series, I ended up basically quitting the project. I did one of them in ink, and I'm like, this is so much easier for me to do, because I can do the study without having to force myself to go over more than one challenge. A project should be a challenge, not a ton of challenges. pick one thing to focus on that's maybe new for you and work on that. And of course, as I mentioned before, don't just do little pieces, but do big pieces. Do a variety of sizes, but do things that are good. Something that's quality, that you can look at all of them at the end, and you don't have one that just sticks out as being, the craftsmanship on this is terrible, or it doesn't really fit with the theme. Make sure the pieces that you're producing actually fit together. Actually, if you're doing a comic, this will show even more, because you have to make your pages all look like they are for the same story versus from 6 different stories. And of course, once you finish that project, then you want to look back. But I would say not immediately. I didn't really understand how much I learned about color doing the Bob in Space series until at least 6 months after I finished that. You know, it's really a retrospect thing that you can look back on a project and go, okay, what did I really learn about all of these pieces as a whole? You know, once you get back to doing your regular work and your regular drawing, sketching, painting, sculpting, whatever it is that you do, I think it's important to kind of look back after a while and say, what did I take from this project, and how am I working now differently because I did those things? So those are my thoughts on doing a big project. Again, I'm just starting a big project myself called Kingdom of the Wind. It's a community visual development project that I really want you guys to jump on board with if you're able to do so. Again, check more about that in the description box below for Wednesday's video. Also, check it out on the post screen right after this. This has Ben reminding you to subscribe if you're not already. Like the video if you liked it. And this has Ben from DMC. I already said that. You know what? I'm not even going to cut this out. See you guys next time.